This is getting a lot more fun now that you're going off topic.
Yeah. Hello, people. I am Jaby KOAY, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
Hi.
And Harsh Kapoor.
Woo.
For the second time.
Okay.
So, I wanted to start this off in a strange way. There's a guy on Twitter who, his name is Tanu, because I asked people to give me questions for you and for the film. And he goes, why is he so arrogant? I want to answer that first before you can answer that, because I'm like, no, this guy's not arrogant. Because, what you guys don't know is that this is our second time doing this because Jaby had some major computer issues. This is the very first time I've ever had an interview just go south like that. I imagine this is the first time you've ever had to do an interview twice with somebody.
I think I've started interviews and then not finished them and had to do them over, but
okay.
Yeah, maybe this is the first time.
Okay, so we're here to talk about Bhavesh Joshi Superhero, your new film coming out, which I personally am very excited for. I know ACHARA is as well.
Super excited for it.
And you're excited too. it's
I am.
3 in the morning over there right now. So
it is.
You are a dedicated individual.
Yeah.
So.
Did you just come back from the screening with the cast and crew?
I did. So there were a couple of screenings. There was one for the cast and crew and there was one for just a few very close friends of mine.
And was that the first time you'd seen it completed, or had you already seen it before?
Well, I've seen rough cuts in the edit, and then I'd seen a censor copy that went for the to the international, the overseas censor copy. But this is the first time I actually saw it with the mix, the dubs, the final edit. So yeah, this was my first proper experience of it, actually.
How do you feel?
How do you feel? I mean, obviously you're exhausted, but how do you feel?
One of the first things that came to my mind, because I knew I was doing this interview, and I was like, Jaby and ACHARA are going to watch the international cut, and I hope you like it, but the Indian cut's at least 10% better.
Really?
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you about what the differences are. Obviously, we'll talk about that after the film's out there. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but Vikram was actually still in the process of completing the film, and finding the film. So it's there. I mean, if you don't know the Indian cut, you won't feel like a difference, but it'll be an interesting thing for us to actually do over Skype when you see it, and then you have like a review of it, and I can tell you, but this was missing or this was different in the Indian version and stuff like that. So it'll be pretty interesting. But yeah, it's very difficult to get a sense from screenings. It's very, very difficult because you're surrounded by people that love and care about you. So their opinions are normally biased. So you don't really know until you put it out there. But personally, for me, I feel like privileged to be part of this movie.
Well,
the rest is up to God.
I think you're probably, like most actors, you're probably your own worst critic. You kind of pick yourself apart more than anything. And so if you watching it, you feel good still, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because the thing is, I've also watched it multiple times. I think a good sign is when something can emotionally move you or like choke you up, even the third or fourth time you see it. Now, I think that probably has a lot to do with, the work that I've put in, and you think about the work that you put in and the sacrifices that you made, and that makes you emotional.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of also the story of the film, I think we worked really hard, and I think we have made something new for sure. I won't say good and bad because that's not my place. The idea is to kind of keep giving new material to the audience and let them make up their mind.
So one of the things we kind of went over before was that a lot of people seem to be comparing this to the likes of like Kick-Ass. And I wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk about dispel that notion and explain why it's not.
So Kick-Ass is like a lot of... I don't remember what the director's name is, but his films are mainly comedic and they have this comedic tone and sensibility.
The guy who worked on Snatch, who produced Snatch.
Matthew Vaughn.
Matthew Vaughn, yeah.
Matthew Vaughn. This is a very, very emotional film. So right away, it's a dramatic film. So the genre is different. The thing is, with trailers and teasers, you don't really know the movie. You kind of get a glimpse into the film. So your mind starts trying to fill in the blanks and starts comparing it to other things. You're only really going to get a sense of it once you actually go in there and see the film in its entirety. It's nothing like Kick-Ass.
One of the questions I asked you last time that I'd love for you to answer again, it was basically about the fact that you're Anil Kapoor's son, and you're in this very privileged position, but yet you're still selective. What came across to me was that you're just a very humble person and you're very appreciative of your position. How do you maintain that kind of perspective? Because any other person, they would take advantage of nepotism. They would use it to the fullest extent to benefit themselves, but you don't seem to want to do that. You have what I call a Jack White approach, where you do things in a very diligent manner.
The line from Spider-Man that we discussed the last time we spoke, with great power comes great responsibility. I think that kind of fits. I think I kind of made a conscious choice when I was in college and stuff. I was trying to kind of figure out in what direction do I want my career to go? What kind of actor do I want to be? Like you said, I'm very blessed to kind of be privileged. So that immediately takes away a lot of pressure. I mean, even after that, there's no end to greed. You know, there's no end to wanting to be famous. Those things, I mean, people just, they go crazy, you know, they want more and more and more and more. I've never been excited by those things. I mean, those things are nice and I think everybody wants them, but I will not compromise on my creative integrity or what I want to achieve. You know, I'm looking at the larger picture. You know, I'm an easy target for a lot of people, you know, like even the way that you started your interview, but I've just become numb to it now. The thing is, I don't go out there. I'm not in controversies. I don't do things, you know, I'm not in the center of attention. I don't like to be, but still people will always have something to say about me, no matter how good of an actor I become or the kind of movies that I want to do, because there are some people that only like to focus on negativity. There's nothing I can do about it, you know.
Yeah.
All I can do about it is do movies I believe in and try to create something over a period of time. You know, with films like Mirza or Bhavesh, Joshi, it's not going to be overnight. I think these films have a shelf life. I think they kind of live on. And I think hopefully eventually 6-7 years from now, people will kind of see what I'm trying to do. And I hope I can kind of create something. Maybe 10 years from now, you know, when I'm 34, 5, 6 years old, people look at my filmography and be like, wow, you know, he only did movies that he believed in and he's still done okay for himself. He still has work and he's gotten better and better.
Right.
If I can achieve that and if I can kind of inspire other people getting into the industry and say, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, because the whole system right now is very set. You know, people feel like every actor has to be the same in India. You all have to do the same thing and they want to categorize you and put you in this box, you know. They don't want to embrace your uniqueness and individuality. So what I've done, I feel, is I've put my lineage on the line with every movie that I do. I risk it all. I use my my contacts and my networks after I've made the film, you know, to get attention about the film because I believe in the film.
Yeah.
I don't think that's wrong. I could have easily done something that's a lot more kind of acceptable or palatable or generic or what people are used to, but I chose not to. If people want to see that as a good thing or a bad thing, you know, that's not my place.
How did you kind of become connected to this film? I know we talked about this before, but I think it's really interesting because you are very picky about what you want to do. So what stood out?
So I met Vikram in 2012. I was 21 years old and I'd just come back from California and I was extremely like enthusiastic and fresh, and I went to meet him about a story that I'd written in school. And when I was talking, he kind of felt like I get very passionate when I talk, you know, and he saw like a sincerity and an honesty, and then he had an idea. He said, why don't we audition Harsh for Bhavesh Joshi? And he told Anurag Kashyap, who's the writer-producer on this film, who was with me at the screening, amazing guy and an inspiration for me growing up. He told Anurag, and Anurag said, it's a good idea, you know, Harsh, why don't you audition him? And then he told me to audition. I said, I'm not ready to audition. But then he said, why don't you just read the scenes, because we have such a good relationship. If there are things you need to improve on as an actor, I can be honest with you and tell you. So just go through this process with me. So I said, okay, I'll read the scenes. I read the scenes. I loved them. So I went from being somebody that was not sure to somebody who was desperate now to do this movie. The audition happened. He felt I was too raw and inexperienced. He said, you've got potential, but why don't you go do some other work and we can come back and do this, do another film later in the future, but I'm going to go ahead and make this with another actor. And then many years passed, and in 2016 we reconnected, and he said, why don't you show me rushes from Mirza? So I did. And then he saw the rushes and he said that he liked what he saw. And that's when we reopened the chapter of Bhavesh Joshi. It's been a long process to kind of convince him to get the funding for this film to make this film. So yeah, that's how it happened.
There's an article, I only saw like the headline, but it said something like Harsh Kapoor said if this film was made in the 90s, you'd want your dad to be the star of it. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I just wanted to know if your dad had any influence, any impact whatsoever on what decisions you made with this character or this role or acting style.
A lot of people ask me this in interviews, you know. The thing is with acting, it's such a personal thing.
Right.
It's kind of like a representation of who you are. It's not really like getting into like banking, for example, or like, you know, engineering. You know, no, seriously.
No, I totally get it.
Things are so set in those fields. Over here, you know, you have to kind of internalize things. You have to draw from your own personal experiences. A single scene can be interpreted in several ways, you know.
Right.
So what is the choice you make? How is that choice personal to you? How does that fit in with your director's vision? And all of those things are so personal. So how can you ask somebody else how to do something? You can't, you know, which is why you do the movies you want to. It's the same reason. We talk a lot. But like, for example, he wasn't too sure about me doing this movie. He wasn't too sure about me doing the first film that I did. It's never an argument. It's more of a conversation where I kind of put my points across, he puts his points across, and then I eventually do what I feel is I want to do what's going to make me happy. But yeah, we do talk about the craft a lot. There's so much to learn from him. I mean, he's like prolific. This film is a little bit like the Bollywood films. It draws from the Bollywood films from the 70s and 80s with the whole angry young man kind of feeling who's like kind of taken on the system in a way. So that's why I said that.
Were there any experiences from Merzia that you took with you here? I already know like one of them would be like your choice of doing your own stunts. I was wondering if there was anything you took with you from Merzia where you go, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again, or I'm definitely going to do this again. Is there anything like that just comes to mind right away?
See, with Merzia, the thing is, it was a pretty elaborate film, you know.
Yeah.
So I was playing two different roles: as the warrior in the undefined time period and the staple boy in the contempt. So I learned a lot. I think for a first-time actor, it was a great school almost, where you didn't have many words. You had to mainly use your eyes and your body language to convey a lot of things. You know, the dialogue was not too much. That really helped me in the silent moments in Bhavesh, Joshi, because I'd been in that environment before. So I think I've learned how to use my eyes to better effect. I've learned how to kind of use breathing and body language and stuff like that. But also in Merzia, I kind of felt in certain places that I could have projected my voice better or differently. That's something I've really focused on in Bhavesh, Joshi, especially with the mask. Because you don't have the face, right? You don't have the eyes, and that's so what do you do? It's all about your voice and your body language. So Anurag Kashyap actually and me did a lot of work before and after in the sound mix and the dub with the dialogues and stuff. When you see the film, you'll see in a lot of the scenes where I'm covered by the mask, the way that I've pitched my dialogues are a little different in some places. You know, with every film you get better. You know, I mean, I'm already watching Bhavesh Joshi and being like, man, I could have done that differently. I could have done that better, but you're never really satisfied, are you?
God, I had one question, but then you mentioned Anurag Kashyap. How much hands-on work did he do in this movie?
So Vikramditya Motwani and Anurag Kashyap go back a long way. The director of this film and Anurag, they run this company together called Phantom Films,
Right.
who are the producers of this film. Vikram actually wrote Dev D, that Anurag directed. They're like brothers, those guys, you know. So Anurag has a great command over the Hindi language. So Vikram writes in English because Vikram thinks and speaks English, and Anurag has a great command over the language. So Anurag actually took the English draft and wrote all the Hindi dialogues. He also helped out in screenplay a lot. If we need anything, we kind of go to Anurag, whether it's me in the dub or whether it's Vikram needs an opinion on the edit. He's kind of like a creative producer / co-writer.
He's my constant reference for realism and like good scene work in films. I just watched Par Manu. My first thought was like, how would Anurag have approached this movie? How different would it be? Because it's so commercial. Speaking of commercial, how commercial is this in your opinion?
See, this is the question that gives me a heart attack and anxiety. You know? Because, see, the reality is I have no clue. You know, that's the problem. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to marry both the worlds.
Right.
Because what it really is commercial. Does commercial automatically mean larger than life? But then that's unrealistic, you know, which means it's a certain kind of film. So why should we be limited by that? We should tell real stories, make people feel real emotions, then make more people come and watch those films on word of mouth publicity, which makes them commercial.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're trying to do is trying to make innovative original films in the way that you want, but they become mainstream because they break through. Now that's a very, very risky zone, but if it happens, then it becomes memorable. Here we're trying to kind of reinvent the whole superhero vigilante. What is the meaning of a superhero? Just because he's a superhero doesn't mean he has to do certain things kind of way. That's just the way that they like to make and see movies. They want it to be real. They want you to feel like you're there, which is something I really relate to. And I'm trying to kind of make that mainstream in whatever way that I can. A lot of people tell me, but first you should do the stereotypical movies and become a movie star, and then you can do this. But my whole thing is, who made those rules? You know what I'm saying is, you know, there's no book, right? There's no rule book. Those things aren't set in stone. So I feel like everybody has a journey, and I'm trying to do something new. So I hope it works out.
One of the first things I noticed when I was watching Bollywood movies is inherently there's going to be a difference in like acting style between American cinema and Bollywood, right? And you studied acting here in the States. Is there anything that you kind of encountered where you're like, that's totally different from what I was taught, and you kind of had to adjust, or you were bringing your own thing to it that kind of clashed with, you know, what other people thought was correct?
I mean, I'm very lucky that I got a chance to work with so many great minds so early on. But in a way, I really pushed for it because I knew that I would be comfortable in terms of the way that I wanted to pitch my performance.
Right.
They would push me and get the best out of me for sure if I was doing something that wasn't good, and kind of make me better. But I knew I wouldn't be pitching my performance in a way that made me uncomfortable. Gotcha. You know, because that whole world and the form of the way that they make their film is something that I've kind of seen. I've seen their previous films, right? And I've seen films that I like. So I know that's a good marriage. So I haven't been in that position where I've kind of felt like, oh, you know, but this is my education, or this is what I want to do, and you're making me do something completely else that I don't believe in.
While we're talking about acting and styles and whatnot, are there any actors besides, I mean, I assume that your dad is an inspiration for you. Are there any other actors that really inspire you where you go, that's exactly what I strive for in a performance?
I think in the West there are a lot. I mean, you guys are from there, so you've grown up watching these guys, but there was a phase when Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and Johnny Depp were like killing it. you know.
Right.
And they were all three massive movie stars and all doing different kinds of movies. And everybody always said that Brad Pitt's the good-looking guy, Johnny Depp's the phenomenal actor, and Tom Cruise is the movie star. But as time's gone on, I mean, Brad Pitt is the one that's actually, I feel, become the best actor out of the three of them.
Sure.
You know, he's made the most interesting choices. He's worked, and why? Why do you feel like that? Because it's because of the choices that Brad Pitt's made.
Yeah.
He chose Terrence Malick. He chose David Fincher repeatedly. He created his own path, and then after a point, he became such a good actor. You forgot about how good looking he is.
Yeah.
While Tom Cruise is making Mission Impossible 8 and 9, and Johnny Depp is making Pirates of the Caribbean 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And it's getting boring now. So I'm very inspired by Brad Pitt, very inspired by Ryan Gosling, because I believe that these actors make innovative choices and they redefine the mainstream.
You cracked the musical genre. Now you're cracking the superhero genre. What's the next genre you're going to try to take apart?
Well, I don't think we cracked the musical genre, but we tried. And you know, at least it's nice to kind of sit here and look at the visuals and listen to the music of Mirza and watch certain moments in that film, and be
Someone's
like, wow,
messing
man.
around in the background.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's just like to be really proud that we tried that. You know, I don't want to be one of those people that just says I didn't try. The next is a biopic. So, you know, to try and do something new with that. And I think horror. In India is something that's been completely unexplored, is kind of very bracketed. So to do something in the horror genre, but that's kind of more in a realistic space, like The Shining, or very recently A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
So I'll pull some questions from Twitter real quick. This comes from Shubhojit Sarkar, and also Krishna Charan Basumatri asked this. Will there be a sequel to Bhavesh Joshi Superhero?
So go on Book My Show, book out all the cinemas, buy lots of tickets, so we can make money, and then we can make a part 2 and 3.
Yeah.
If it does, yes.
Yesterday we kind of talked about Batman as being sort of an influence or the most closest thing you could compare this to. This is a question here, like how Nachiket asks, how does the superhero genre in India compare with Marvel and DC, and what did he do to compete with it? Bear in mind, you guys, it's 3 a.m. over there as he answers as I hit him with these hard-hitting questions.
I'm fine. So those guys have like $100 million, $200 million budgets, right? Which is like a lot of money, because English is a universal language, right? English is a language that people understand all over the world.
Yeah.
Hindi is not, you know, so that immediately limits our overseas markets, limits our budget. So obviously we can't compete with their CGI or their special effects, but this isn't that kind of movie. This is in a way an indie film. You know, we're trying to hopefully start something new, you know, maybe you guys see the film, you like the film, and then we start a conversation about it. And this is something new. So we're trying to do something. Let's see if it works out.
I think that's really interesting as well, because you have the advantage of it being something completely new to the market there. And also, I just feel like it's probably just going to be really story driven.
That's a really interesting point, because when a lot of people saw the rough cut, they talked about like action and slickness and scale and stuff like that. The first thing our director said is, I want to cut and edit the action like emotion, you know, because it's all emotionally driven. It's not action for action's sake.
That actually brings me a lot of relief hearing that, because I've watched a lot of fight scenes in India, even over here, everywhere. I find that the thing that lacks oftentimes when I'm watching a fight scene is the emotional drive, and it having its own story woven in there. It's just kind of arbitrary action happening for the sake of action.
Yeah.
So that makes me even more excited.
But saying that though, I mean, even in the trailer, I thought the action looked really cool. What sort of training and preparation did you have to do to kind of be ready for all of that?
You know, the interesting thing is that, again, this is a film about a guy that doesn't really know how to fight. He learns how to fight that's somebody's phone, in case you're wondering.
Okay.
But anyway, no, so the film is about somebody that actually learns how to fight within the film. So we shot bits when I actually didn't know how to fight myself. And then I trained in hand-to-hand combat and martial arts for about 6 to 8 months. And there was a specific choreography for the sequences that I had to learn and become fluent at it and become good at it. And so that was very tough. That was scary as well, because I knew the sequences depended on my ability to pull them off on the day. Something really interesting I want to share with you guys. I don't know if you remember this, but there's a moment in the trailer. It's a glimpse. You see me, my hands punching a metal.
Yes.
Yeah,
surface.
yeah.
Yes.
That was actually metal. So what happened is I saw it, right, and I'm like, there's no padding here, guys. I'm gonna get hurt. And they're like, but he wants you to feel like that because he wants to see the pain on your face. So they said, we won't roll for too long, but this is how you're going to have to do it. So we did it. And then we went up to shoot some dojo sequences. And then I actually fell and I cut my forearm. And after that, we had to go back and shoot the training montages. And I said, my arm is ripped open now. So can we cover this? They're like, no, because we've already done the earlier bits and it won't match the continuity, so you just have to go ahead and do it. So I was very upset on the day, but to be honest, when I look at the film now, it was so worth it.
That's a proper actor answer though, to be like, yeah, like I broke my toe on set, but wow, it was worth it. Or like Leonardo DiCaprio in what was that movie, Django Unchained, when he like cut his hand with the glass and he just carried on. So, yeah.
And, I mean, when those things happen, you're really upset about them and you feel like the whole world's against you. But in a larger scheme of things, it's for like 2 minutes, and this film is going to live on forever. So
it doesn't feel like 2 minutes when it happens, though.
Yeah, you hate the world.
I've done my share of stunts and whatnot. I know how it feels. But this comes from Sam Somi. She asks, why did they change the release date? And for Harsh, how does he feel about him and his sister's movies are releasing the same day?
So we really wanted to release the film on the 25th of May, but we had a couple of problems. One was we needed to deliver the international DCP 10 days prior, and we were still mixing the film, dubbing the film, and editing the film. So that wasn't possible. Secondly, the 25th May weekend just became an extremely busy weekend with Parmanu, the film you guys just saw, with Star Wars, Han Solo, with Deadpool weekend 2, with the Indian Cricket League, which concluded over that weekend. And so we weren't getting the kind of showcasing that we wanted, and we felt like we also wanted another week to promote the film. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of strange. I'm not going to lie. I think both films are different and they can do well, hopefully. But like my sister's has her own screenings and I'm having my own screenings, and if this wasn't the case, then we could really be there for each other.
Will there ever be a movie with all the Kapoors together?
Well, so Sonam and Dad have done a film together which releases this October. I'm doing the biopic about the shooter, the next one. My dad's in it.
Okay.
Oh.
When is the whole family going to be on camera together?
As soon as we get a script, we're open to doing it. Some family films are like the greatest films, like The Godfather is a really good example of that. Sofia Coppola was in one of The Godfathers, wasn't she?
Yeah, but
yes.
As a baby, right?
No, she was also in the third one. She was hated for a very long time because of that. That messed up her career for a while.
See, that's another classic example of nepotism. You hate Sofia Coppola.
Yeah.
She hasn't done anything to your life, but you still hate her.
Yeah.
And then she makes some of the greatest movies ever.
She was hated specifically because her performance was so bad. I don't think you guys have that problem to worry about. Yeah. This is the last time I'm going to mention this. But what about like Indian Incredibles?
Like, you mean like the Indian Avengers?
No, because the the Incredibles, the animation, the Pixar animation is about a family of superheroes.
Oh wow! Putting ideas in my head, man.
Yeah, like you guys could all be like the Indian Incredibles.
You had to learn a bunch of skills for Mercia, like shooting a bow and arrow and like riding a horse, and then now you've learned more martial arts and stuff like that. Is that something that kind of draws you to a film as well, like the possibility of becoming this new character who's completely different from you and acquiring like a buttload of new skills?
Like for example with Mirza, the training was so elaborate. I can really look forward to doing another period film now that would involve horse riding and kind of like going back to that kind of world and stuff, so it's cool to acquire skills. You feel like, wow, I'm getting to learn something new that I wouldn't get to learn in my normal life. That's why acting is a great job, so that's amazing. I always look forward to that, but I am now looking forward to doing something where I don't have to, and I can just kind of go there and do something more lighthearted and kind of be myself, So.
Peanut B asks, what were the martial arts styles that you had to learn for this?
I would say MMA, it's mixed martial arts. There's a bit of everything, but it's kind of like kung fu based. There's a lot of eskrima stick fighting.
Does the superhero in this film have any superpowers? Because he's a superhero.
None. So the idea of Bhavesh Joshi superhero comes from the idea that there is a superhero within all of us, because Bombay is a certain kind of city. We live in a certain kind of society, and we believe that it has had the potential to be one of the great metropolitans, but it's always been kind of pulled back by corruption. We tend to take a lot of things for granted, and we live a life a certain way. So the idea is, if you choose to kind of not break the law and live your life a certain way, then that it takes somebody of great pride and great courage. So there was a quote by Mahatma Gandhi where he said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So the film takes a lot of inspiration from that quote. So that's kind of the essence of the film. So the idea is that there is a superhero within all of us, and it's the choices we make that kind of define us.
Did you do any of your own stunts on this?
I did as much as I could. Anything that was deemed unsafe or dangerous, I didn't do. But I always try and do as much as I can. If I think somebody else can do a better job, and the director wants that, then I don't kind of try and get my ego in the way, because I want what's best for the movie.
Do you have any hopes of being a director someday? You have a very vast knowledge of film and a very strong love for it, just on a very visceral, deep down level, it seems like it would suit you at some point.
I do think about it a lot, but I think I'm trying to be a decent actor first. I think I have a long way to go. I have a lot to learn and a lot of things I can improve, and I've only done the 2 movies. Being a director is the ultimate because it's your vision. You are the captain of the ship, and everybody is kind of following your lead. I think I need a lot more life experience. I think I need a lot more film experience to kind of get to that level. Maybe one day in my mid-30s after I've done 8, 10 films, But I think I have learned a lot from Rakesh, Om Prakash Mehra, Mirza and Vikramaditya Motwani, Bhavesh, Joshi. They're 2 of the best. I'm kind of taking that experience. I'm kind of imbibing it. The great thing about being an actor is it's a courtside kind of seat. It's like you have like a bird's eye view. You're there every day on set and you're listening to the director briefs and you're seeing them talk to their DOP, deciding what lens to use, how to frame a certain shot. I like to believe that directors have to be really good liars. And they have to always kind of pretend like in a way that everything's okay, because they might be like dying and completely freaking out from inside, but they can't let that energy kind of pass on to the crew, because they have to make everybody feel like this is a comfortable, loving environment. That's something I've learned. Hopefully one day I find a story when I'm at a certain place in my life where I feel like I can tell this story the way that it deserves to be told, and I can do it well. I think I'm a long way away from that, but that is the ultimate dream.
A lot of my audience are guys. Often this conversation about relationships and how to approach women comes up. Growing up in the environment that you did and being on the platform that you have, is it hard approaching like someone that you're interested in, or is it as simple as like, hi, and they go, yes?
This is getting a lot more fun now that you're going off topic.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not a movie star.
Right.
I'm really not. I'm just an actor that's kind of trying to do good movies. So I don't have like a huge fan base or anything. I think I'm just kind of getting started. I think the one thing I'll say is you end up meeting people in similar circles all the time. You end up meeting other actors. You end up meeting people that work on films. So your world becomes really small. It's hard, because ideally you'd like to be with somebody that's not connected to your world, right? Because then you don't have to come back to that.
Yeah.
Because that's exhausting, and you don't want that. You want something that's kind of something that keeps you real, something that kind of gives you a different perspective. So I kind of find myself sometimes trapped in that bubble, and everything gets written about, which is annoying because it takes a lot of time to get to know somebody, and in that process of getting to know somebody, things become public and then it just gets ruined. With the kind of work that we do, right, it's very difficult for other people to understand what the job entails.
Right.
It's going to take somebody of really great understanding like my mother. My mom and my dad have been together for over 3 decades.
Wow.
They have a really, really solid relationship. But she's like a miracle person. To find something like that is going to be very, very hard.
I think you should just go on Tinder with like your mask on, and then be like, I'm looking for people not in the industry, but I'm a mystery person. Ha! Love me for my personality. Let's go.
Probably report my profile if I put on a mask. But no, I can't be on any dating apps in India. It's a bad idea.
I bet.
It would be on Twitter in like 5 seconds.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think this will be the last question because I know you're probably really tired. If it wasn't acting, what would it be?
I would probably be a writer, producer full time.
So it's going to be industry no matter what for you.
I think if it wasn't cinema, I would probably be into hospitality. I love kind of traveling and trying new cuisines, trying new foods, kind of giving people kind of that experience. And I think hopefully if I have some success as an actor, that would be a nice kind of like side thing to do. I mean, in a perfect world, I would have loved to be an athlete, but I'm nowhere near like good enough to be an athlete, because I love sports. I'm obsessed by sports as well.
But you can be an actor who plays athletes now. See? For everybody who's watching, what's the name of your next film? What can we look forward to watching you in?
It's called Abhinav. Which is the name of the character. His name is Abhinav Bindra. He won Olympic gold in 2008 in Beijing in the 10-meter air rifle category. The film is called Abhinav. It traces his journey over 2 decades. So I'm playing him from 15 years of age to 35.
Wow.
And it takes you from Sydney to Athens to Beijing to London to Rio. All those Olympic games as kind of crucial junctures in the film, and then there's obviously the lot that happens kind of within those. But it's a father-son relationship film. Because if you read the book, it's available on Amazon and stuff. It's called A Shot at History, my obsessive journey to Olympic gold. So the idea with that film is to take you inside the mind of an obsessive athlete. The sports that we generally like in India, like cricket, or like running or hockey, they're very external sports. They require great athletes and skill and athletic ability. Shooting is about concentration. It's about focus. It's about focusing on that one single point and just eliminating everything else from your mind and your subconscious, you know. So what would the emotional impact of something like that be on a person?
Right.
You know, if you had to just be so dedicated and so committed to something that required you to be so cut off. I kind of had this analogy when we were writing the script. It's like a soldier goes to fight for the country and he fights really well and he wins and we celebrate him when he comes back. But is he the same person that he was when he left? He's not, because of the experiences he's had. I feel Abhinav Bindra is the same because he's so dedicated to being the best shooter that he could be. He had no relationships, he had no personal life. He became a certain kind of person. The film is a film that will take you into the mind of an obsessive athlete, the toll it took on his relationship with his father and stuff. And it's going to be a songless Bollywood biopic. It's going to be a Bollywood biopic without any songs. It's just going to have a score.
Wow.
Amazing. You've already sold me on that. I'm so excited.
If you like reading, read the book.
I have one last question. I promise this is the last question. Okay, so one of the first things that I discovered when I went into doing YouTube full time was this sense of freedom to do whatever I wanted with my time. It was kind of weird. And I'm just curious, like, because I had to figure out what to do with, like, the boring time when there's, like, when you've done what you need to do, it's like, there's a lot of that kind of flexibility to do whatever you want. So what are you doing when you're not making movies? Like, how does Harsh, like, kill time?
You know, the reality is that I'm an extremely lazy guy. That's just the sad truth. You know, I wish there was something more interesting. But if you look at my room here, I'm gonna show you. So, do you see movies?
Yes.
Yeah. So this all just I'm surrounded by movies and books.
It looks nicely organized.
Your movie collection rivals Jaby's. I think you've got more.
I like to exercise. I like to take walks. I like to swim. I like to travel. I spend a lot of time in London. My family, we have a small little place that we use there. So it's kind of like a second home. So I kind of like to get away. I like to play sports. I love playing football. I love playing soccer. I like reading. Read a couple of really good books of late. So I'm a very simple, I do really simple things like hanging out with my friends. Nothing too spectacular, but I do really enjoy my downtime. I do really, really, really like it. And I think that's the most beautiful part about being an actor. You know, you can go to like one movie a year, which takes 4 or 5 months, and you have the rest of the time to yourself to reflect on life, to reflect on the experience, to live life, because there's lots of life outside of just being an actor. Lastly, anybody that's watching this book, can you see this book? It's called Moth Smoke.
Moth Smoke.
Oh.
Right, so this is my favorite book.
Okay.
Of all time.
All right.
just a plug.
Just to put that out
Moth
there.
Smoke, everyone. I'm gonna add that to my Amazon list right now.
I wanted to just say thank you again so much for doing this a second time. I think this was way cooler than the first one, honestly.
Yeah. Trial run.
The first one was like the audition. Yeah. This one's the real thing.
Try not to lose this file.
I'm gonna let you go to bed. It's 4 a.m. over there. I'm gonna let you go to sleep, man. Thank you so much for doing this again. You guys make sure to go watch the film, Bhavesh, Joshi Superhero, when it comes out, and let us know on Stardust how you feel about it. We'll share your clips from Stardust in our review when we put ours out. Thank you again, man. It was really, really awesome to talk with you a second time.
Thanks so much.
I'm looking forward to talking to you again. And hopefully we'll hang out when we come to India again.
Let's. Why don't we do this? Why don't you, when you watch the film, we can send me a text and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
We can do like a small kind of like conversation about the film, maybe a couple of weeks after it's come out.
Yeah,
That
for
would
sure.
be awesome,
All right, man.
yeah.
Well, take care. Have a good night.
Done. See you. Bye.
Bye, man. One of the things I want to say, and I'm not doing this to blow smoke up anybody's butt, but I feel like Harsh is very like grounded and real in his manner and demeanor, and I really appreciate that because, like, when we were it's a different environment, of course, but when we went to the premiere of Justice League, right?
Yeah.
Any celebrities we met, there's a certain
Persona.
frame,
Veneer.
veneer that the people are putting on, and for good reason. They want to be nice, but what I like about this is, and it's different again because it's just one-on-one, it's very intimate, is that he's just very real and personable and frankly, very open. And I really appreciate that because I try to do the same thing in conversations with people. It's like, I'm just trying to be me and as real as possible. And it's like, it's getting harder and harder to find that in this day and age, especially with the advent of like Twitter and hashtags and all that stuff. It's like it gets harder to find people who are just being real in themselves because we're afraid of things being pulled out of context and whatnot. I hope this is the future. It's like these kind of personal, intimate conversations, you know?
Yeah.
And I hope to do this some more, and I do hope to hang out with Harsh.
I think he's a super cool guy, and I think, you know, I really hope that he's gonna go far in the industry, because it seems like he's making very interesting choices. He's prepared to take risks and do something different, which I think is really great for any artist.
Yeah. I guess my only hope is that when I talk to Harsh again in 20 years, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
The same humble dude, because that's...
I hope you're the same humble dude.
I hope so too. I might be a big asshole. Harsh who? I'm just joking. I hope that we can all kind of maintain that kind of outlook, because it's, you know, we were watching a comedy, John Mulaney, talking about Mick Jagger. Yes. You know, has been playing to audiences, full packed audiences for 50 years. People screaming at him like he's a god, and it kind of changes your outlook a bit. Mm-hmm. And I hope that I got people like you to kick me in the ass and be like, hey, you're being a dick.
You're a dick, Jaby.
You know?
Stop being a dick.
And you know, that just, I don't know, that, I know I have said it multiple times even to him. That's very, very impressive to me that even with all that he has, he's able to, you know, just be chill and be humble. You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Please check out Bhavesh, Joshi, Superhero, and let us know, like I said, put your review on Stardust so that we can share your thoughts in our review. We'll pick like just randomly a couple of people to throw in there, and so it should be fun. All right, you guys, thanks so much for hanging out. I'm Jaby KOAY. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.